Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony Arulata. Welcome to Money Mayhem and the Mafia. I'm in the Springfield South End at the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Social Club once again. I've done my first podcast here like a week and a half ago. I also did it with the gentlemen that are with me today. To my right is Frank Magnoli. He's the president of Our Lady of Mount Carmel Social Club. Frank, how you doing, my man?
Good, Anthony. Good to see you.
Good to see you. To my left is Jimmy Palumbo. He is kind enough to come all the way from New Haven, Connecticut, and he is going to be a special guest co-host today. Jimmy, how you doing?
Fine, Anthony. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Always a
Frank, it's
pleasure.
always a pleasure.
Yeah,
Great guy.
yeah. So this is what is happening today. This is going to be a preliminary video explaining what's going to take place in the next 4, 5, maybe 8 episodes that are coming. They'll be maybe an hour in length, and they're going to detail the assassination murder of Adolfo Big Al Bruno, which took place to my right outside this door, about 20 feet maybe to back, 20 feet back is where he was murdered. To my left, this way, and out maybe about 10 feet that way, that was where the assassin was lurking in the shadows and murdered Bruno that night. His name was Frankie Roach. And I'm gonna get into a detailed explanation of everything that happened, the events that happened from the beginning of when Bruno took boss in 2001 to the up until November 23rd, 2003, when he was murdered. There's been a lot of content creators and people giving their opinions about what happened. I pled guilty to the murder of Al Bruno. I'm gonna admit my involvement 100%, letting you the audience know from someone that was on the inside of this, that took place, that would know exactly how everything unfolded and what led to Al Bruno's demise. There's a lot of talk as to why Bruno was killed. Was there a 302? Was he an informant? Was it a power play? Was it a coup to get power from him? And I will tell you right now that 100% Al Bruno was killed because of a 302, and that it was not because of a power play to get him out of power. He was already out of power in the fall of 03. And the way it shifted, I'm going to explain in the next, however long it takes, 5, 6 episodes. I'm going to explain how that all unfolded, where the power was shifting, who were the people pushing the agenda to have Bruno clipped. And a lot of people will be surprised. A lot of it's public records of what happened. People that have common sense can figure out things a lot easier than a lot of the people looking to make a name of themselves and have an opinion. But you're gonna hear it firsthand on that someone that pled guilty to the murder. It's gonna take a lot of detailed explanations going over this. That's why I said it's gonna. I want to cover everything from A to Z. Frank was here. Frank is, as the president, knows the stories on everything that transpired that night, and he can tell you in a later date what the people at the club were saying and what their reactions to. I'll tell you what my reaction, going back to that November 23rd on a Sunday night. And at the end of this video, what I like to do is I like to show you, the exact where Al Bruno was playing the cards, the door that he exited, and the who he was with. He was with an individual named Frankie DiBergola. Frankie DiBergola was a low-level associate. He was a money man. He wasn't mixed up with any of the violence, but he was a big earner. I did a lot of things growing up with Frankie, in my past, a lot of drug dealing, marijuana, cocaine, loan shark in sports. I had a restaurant with Frankie named Angelina's in the Springfield South End. And Frankie was not a violent guy, and but he was a money guy. I made a lot of money with Frankie, and he was one of those that got indicted with the 47 guys back in 2016, the big MAFIA pinch that everything happened. A lot of those guys were, some of those guys were from this area. Some of them were in my crew back in the day, and I'll explain in detail all about those guys, person by person, in future episodes. And so getting back to the Bruno murder, there was a lot of people chattering that Bruno was killed for a 302 that surfaced. And I'm jumping ahead by going in. I'm going to detail that, but when the 302 was surfaced, that was the nail in Bruno's coffin. That's what killed him. Anybody else that tells you different does not know the story of what happened. Bruno talked to an FBI agent. Anybody that is a street guy, anybody that knows anything about the streets or anything about the mob life will tell you what Bruno did was a death sentence, by talking to that FBI, especially what he told him in the 302. I mean, if he just had a casual conversation with the FBI agent and just was talking in general out in the public, that's one thing. But he had a conversation in the back of a political party. It was him and the agent, and what he told the agent, I'm gonna tell you what was on them, that 302, who made guys were in the city, was Emilio Fusco a made guy, how many made guys there were. He brought up other Genovese guys, and that's all written down in the 302. That's what got Al Bruno killed. I'm gonna explain leading up to what happened with the power play, because Bruno was not going to get murdered. Bruno was going to be taken down from a boss to a soldier. And the way things were turning, he didn't see what was coming. And what eventually happened, the 302 was the nail in his coffin that led to his demise. Jim, you got anything you were gonna say?
I want you to explain to your audience what exactly, even for my knowledge and maybe Frank, what exactly is a 302?
A 302 is when you sit down and proffer. It's called a proffer is what it is. And anytime that and it's not just a proffer. A proffer session is when you actually sit down, a formal meeting with the federal government. But the 302, anytime that there's a known mobster, a known organized crime figure, and they bump into law enforcement,
yeah.
They have to, the agent has to protect himself in the future. He has to write down what was discussed and what was mentioned in that conversation. And in this particular case, that's what he did. He documented what the conversation was, and they call that the 302. Going forward, a lot of people have sat down, which we'll get into a lot of stories. A lot of known, notorious people in the mob life has sat down and gave 302s and gave proffers, and them, they backed out at the end and didn't cooperate. They didn't get a cooperation agreement. Doesn't mean they didn't sit down and cooperate. It's just they didn't get the agreement. It didn't go their way, or they weren't telling the truth, and the deal was rejected. So the 302, anybody in the mob circles, anybody that's a street guy would know that once that came out, if you ask 100 mob guys that 302 came out, then 100 mob guys will tell you, organized crime guys, even street guys, big drug businesses will tell you, once that 302 came out, Bruno was a dead man. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah. And I'd like to know one other thing. So a 302 is public knowledge. So in other words, like a discovery.
No, I don't know if it is or not. I don't know if it comes out in all discovery. In this particular case,
so
Emilio Fusco was getting sentenced, And instead of him getting a 2.5-year sentence, he ended up getting like 33 months. He ended up getting maybe a year tacked on. He wanted to know, why am I getting a year tacked on to my sentence? And his lawyer was told by the feds that they had a document with a report that Bruno was talking to an FBI agent, and they gave the document in the discovery. They gave that document to Emilio Fusco, and his lawyer was Anthony Cardinale, big time lawyer. When he saw that document, and it said Bruno's name talking on, directly to an agent, and he's getting an extra year because they said he was a made guy. He denied being a made guy. Well, he was furious. He was, it was only an extra year, but the fact that Bruno got caught talking to an agent, that's like, you ask anybody that's in that life, he's a dead man,
and especially a boss.
So if you ask, like, my involvement with this is Bruno got murdered, and I'm going to explain to you step by step, but the motive to kill Bruno had nothing to do with myself personally. I pled guilty to killing Al Bruno, participating in the murder, 100%. But the murder that took place, the motive to kill Al Bruno stemmed from the 302, which was on Emilio Fusco's case. So the motive to kill him was directly with Emilio Fusco. That's where the motive and the reasoning came. When it came to getting the order from the bosses of the Genovese family, I'm not the boss of I'm the boss of my area, just like Bruno was the boss of this area. Captain in the family, exactly. So when the order came out and everything transpired, and I'm jumping around here, but I'll detail it in each new video that I do. When the order came out, the order wasn't given to me. So I'll explain it like this. There was another soldier in our area that was going to take Al Bruno's place. His name was Felix Stringese. And we're going to talk a lot about Felix. So Felix had a crew. He didn't have a violent crew, but he had a crew, and I'm going to tell you exactly what the plan was about Bruno being demoted and Felix Stringese in the public way taking his place publicly so he could have the heat directed on him. And I'm going to explain all that. But Bruno was not going to be a mark for a dead man. He was going to be just taken down, demoted, call it whatever you want, not shelved, but just taken down, broken. They call them, they're going to break him. So he was going to get taken down from a boss to a soldier. They're going to prop this Felix up in the area as a thing. I'm already a made guy by this time. I was made in August 11, 2003. Bruno, there was no murder plot going on at that time. All that was happening was Bruno was going to be taken down and put as a soldier. When this paper came out in maybe late September, right around that time, September, October, there was a lot of violence going on in the area. There was murder conspiracies, plotting to murder everybody. One particular murder that was taking place was a bookmaker in our area, Louis Santos. And that also was ordered from New York bosses. When this paper came out, this was a lot bigger of an issue, and the bosses in New York reacted to murdering Bruno. The boss of the Genovese family, there was 3 of them. I'm going to tell everybody who they were. Everybody thinks it was just Artie. There was 2 other bosses at this sit down when all this took place. Now, I'm going to explain it like this. So Felix Stringese is the one. So the paper, the 302 surfaces. The 302 surfaces, and Bruno's mentioned talking to an agent, okay? He's mad. He gets into an argument with Al Bruno down at the coffee shop, which is right around the corner from here. They have a big argument. His next thing he does is he calls me. I meet him down at the La Fiorentina. Millie Fisco calls me. That's the first time I see the paper. So I see the paper now. Did not look good for Bruno. So now at this time, Emilio brings the paperwork to Felix Tranghese. Felix Tranghese calls up John Bologna, the informant. And I'm going to tell all these stories about John Bologna and how everything took place. You know, there's a lot of people with their own opinions and everything. This is going to be 100% someone that lived it and did all this, that lived through it and was involved in the plotting and the actual murder. And Felix Tranghese gets the paperwork. He calls John Bologna in New York. John relays a message to Artie about what the paper consists of. Artie sends for Felix to go down there. Now, not me. Now, if I got made in New York City, why wouldn't Artie, who actually made me in the Mafia, he was the guy, the boss that made me, why wouldn't he call for me to come down?
Right.
Because I'm not the one that told him about the paperwork. I'm not the one that called John Bologna.
Nothing to do with it.
You know, I knew about the paperwork, but I had my own issues going on.
Right.
I was trying to murder other people in the area, and I'm going to get into all that. Actively pursuing to murder that I pled guilty to. Okay, I pled guilty to murdering the Manzis, that Joe Manzi. That's one of my conspiracy to murders. So I was actively pursuing that, amongst other things. Not to mention that we killed another person, my brother-in-law, during the whole thing that was going on with Bruno. So that wasn't my priority. Bruno wasn't, and it was nothing to do with me. It was an order to do it. So when Felix calls him and goes down there, he presents the paperwork. That paperwork gets passed around to 3 bosses. They were using a panel. 2 other bosses and Artie. Felix gets the order to murder Al Bruno. Now, Felix gets the order to murder him, and he doesn't have a crew capable enough to do that. So, with that being said, a week, 2 weeks go by. I could care less what happened. You know, he talked to an agent and he got this guy a year. Like I said, my whole brain at the time is to kill somebody else. Felix gets the order. Now, let's just say like this. Let's just say Felix was capable of killing Bruno. Him and his crew killed Al Bruno. Now, when you get that order, you're not supposed to tell anybody. You're not supposed to say, like, if I get an order, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to. So Felix isn't going to tell me. He gets the order from New York. If, you know, why would you tell somebody else about a murder that you're going to commit? You're not going to go tell anybody. You want the less. Now, if you're going to commit the murder with me, I'm going to tell you.
Right, of course.
All right, so Felix comes back. Let's just say this happened. I was never told. I was never there when the bosses gave the order. In the beginning, let's just say that, you know, exactly what happened. Felix gets the contract, gets told, not the contract, but gets told to murder Bruno. He comes back and he murders them. So now Bruno gets killed. Then I'm supposed to wake up that Sunday morning or whenever he gets killed and be surprised. I'm supposed to be like, what the hell happened? Bruno got killed. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if it ever comes out, I will never get charged with that murder because I had nothing to do with it.
Right.
Felix and his crew
Right.
did it. But what happened was Felix was incapable of killing him. He didn't have a crew like that. A few weeks went by. He was doing what he had to do to try to get the guy killed. That's when I get called down by New York, and that's when everything happens officially, and that's when I participate actively in the murder. And then shortly after that, you know, like I said, there was another murder that happened. There was other murder conspiracies that I pled guilty to, but then eventually Al Bruno dies. Anybody that will tell you that that 302 didn't kill him, then they don't know anything about, you know, the mob
Or the life.
or the life. When it came to me, as far as being the position of who had all the power in my area, in 2003 of August, I got made directly with New York City boss and the boss. You know, I'm going to tell you stories how one of the bosses, I'll say his name, Larry Dentico, and then there was Mario Giganti. These are bosses that were there. Actually gave Bruno messages.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Where was the Chin in this? He was gone, right?
Chin was already in prison.
He was in prison?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Chin was already in prison. But his brother Mario was on the piano.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
running it. And
Heavy
so was,
hitters.
yeah, you know, you don't get heavier than that
Right. No,
there.
right.
Artie wasn't supposed to be there. Artie jumped. Artie was a soldier and got put there because, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but another guy went to prison and put Artie there. Artie wasn't supposed to be there. So he got put there by, say, default. I can tell you exactly how all that went down because when Artie did get put in that position, the other two bosses, Mario and Larry, said, okay, then you're not acting, you're official. And tell the guy that put you there, you're acting now, and that's it. And so people don't know that's how it transpired. But, you know, Artie would just say he's holding the keys. So when this guy came out, he was, you know, he was holding the keys for him. He got a 5-year sentence. So, but I was there when Bruno started to try. I was never introduced to Bruno as a made guy. That's how you have to do it. If a guy goes around and tells you he's a made guy, he's a jerk off. Anybody that goes around and says, "Oh, yeah, I got my button."
No, yeah,
like
no,
that,
right.
You got to be introduced to somebody.
From another member.
So Bruno started to get like figuring things out that I was a made guy. And one of the things was there was a individual that used to hold guns for Bruno, and I knew about it. His name was Jakey Nettis, and Jakey and Nettis and me had like a little, not a beef, but you know, he was just, now Jakey didn't know I was made, but he was trying to say, you know, why don't you listen to Bruno? Bruno don't want me hanging around with Emilio Fusco. He says, why don't you listen to him? Bruno's the boss. And so me, you know, I just told Jakey to say, you know, you should stay out of it, mind your business, and in a nice way.
You're
And
right,
I had
right,
respect for
right,
that guy.
right.
But and Jakey was a serious guy. He was involved in a lot of violence in our area, murders. So, but I told him to mind his business. But I had mentioned it to my boss in New York, not Artie. You know, I mentioned it to another captain, and word got back. Larry was knew this guy Jakey very well, so Larry sent a message to Jakey, and he told him, when you see that kid, meaning me, you treat him like you would treat me. And you can't get any type of, you know, like, you know, so
Coming
now
from a heavy hitter, right?
coming from a boss like that, you couldn't get, so now he went back and told Bruno. Now Bruno's trying to figure is figuring things out now. Now he's saying, you know, so at a stag at this time, this is when things kind of started to and Bruno was just getting taken down. That's it. That was I mean, I would admit, if I killed a guy because I wanted his power, why wouldn't I say it? It makes me look better. Yeah, I wanted to be the boss out here, so I killed Bruno. Now I'm the boss. Yeah, I did that. Why wouldn't I just say that?
Right,
you know what I mean? I don't care either way it goes. I'm just here.
Was he ever busted formally?
Who?
Bruno?
For what?
Was he ever told?
No,
never
so,
told.
So here's what was going on.
All right.
He was, as everything that was, that's a good question. As everything that was going on, now I already got made, I'm direct with New York. So I'm down in New York like twice a week. I'm meeting with other captains. I'm getting introduced as made guys in New York. You know, they're bringing guys up like this, and they're saying, you know, Anthony, this is Frank, Amigo Nostro, and I'm getting to all those guys in New York, are the best guys. I was there when guys were coming up to Artie, and Artie was telling them that they had to report to him, and guys would get mad, and he said, no, I only report to the chin, and he goes, well, no, now you report here. And so I was there when all that transpired. I was there when bosses got in the car and told us about the guy John Bologna being an informant. That happened in New York with the acting boss of the Gambinos, Anthony Miguel. So going back, Bruno, I'm at a stag party for one of our guys and everything. And Bruno was trying to get in touch with New York, and they were putting him to the shelf. Now, when Artie became boss, Pat DeLuca was his good friend. Pat DeLuca was very good friends with Bruno. And Pat didn't even know that Artie got that spot. You know, Artie never, out of respect, he told him, but Pat was never told that he got that spot until Artie told him. So like I said, that was unheard of. He got it by default, Artie jumping into that spot. And he was a bad boss. He's dead. Whatever I did, I cooperated in a way. He was a horrible boss. He put me around this jerk off that was told that he was an informant. And so Bruno's at the stag, and he didn't really know what was going on. He sensed something that was going on, but he didn't really know what was behind it. And I'm going to explain all of what was going on. It was all greed. It all came down to greed, not by me, but it came down to greed.
Was there ever a point where there were people not paying attention to what he was saying? If he gave some kind of an order, and
No.
they-
It came up to everything was being done behind his back. He could sense things. You know, I'll be honest. I dug the hole to kill my brother. That's where we buried my brother. But that hole was dug to put Felix Tranghese in. Bruno told me to dig the hole because we were going to kill Felix. That's why the hole was dug.
Okay.
You know, and this is all in testimony in court records.
Right.
That hole that Gary Westerman went in, that I pled guilty to killing, that hole was meant for Felix Tranghese. We were going to kill him because Bruno was sensing things, and he was and Felix was, you know, instigating trouble. He was one of the instigators behind this. Him, John Bologna, Emilio Fusco, and Artie they were all in a plot to take this man, and it all came down to greed. What it all came down to was money.
What else?
You
What
know?
else?
Right. So I got a question for you, quick, for the audience. Your audience, I'm sure they want to know what happened to Felix Tranghese. Am I saying his name right?
It's Tranghese.
Tranghese.
Felix ended up cooperating in the case, and he's living like 10 minutes from my house. But
So
getting
he's
back
alive, and he's still alive.
right, and he's walking us. He lives 10 minutes from my house. He was a big instigator in the Bruno murder. When I was at the stag, Bruno came up. Now Bruno didn't know I was made at the time, so Bruno was asking me. You know, I was still partners with him in sports. You know, all he was going to do was be taken down.
Right.
Which we talked about this before. It was going to be a bigger insult than killing him.
Right.
So he
You
wasn't
would
going
have
to.
want to been dead.
Right, but I was still partners with him in sports, with loan sharking. We had all the shakedowns he was still part of. Now what would have happened was, once he got taken down, I had the position already in New York, but I was being insulated. We were going to prop Felix up. Felix was going to be the
lightning rod.
yeah, good one.
That's great. That's a great word.
That's an excellent word. So he was going to be the lightning rod. So he was going, but also they could control Felix. They couldn't control, like Bruno did. Bruno sent a lot. You know, he sent money, but they definitely couldn't control me. I mean, as far as the money that was going down there when Bruno was who he was, I think it was like around 12 to 15,000 a month he was sending, down there.
Penis.
Yeah, and that was just from the extortions.
Oh, yeah, right.
That wasn't even a tip of all the businesses that we had.
Right.
When I became the position afterwards, I was giving them 6,000. And prior to Bruno giving them the 12 and 15, nobody gave them nothing. Nothing. They got not one penny from our area. And that's not saying that we were in a position like, it's just that the bosses in New York were wealthy. We were over here. These guys were all wealthy, and it wasn't. They just didn't do it. There was just was there gifts involved? Was there all kinds of, I know there was like a van filled with 50,000 worth of cigars and wines and foods and cognacs and high expensive homemade wine. But as far as money, no. Bruno started all that, and. When it came to me, they had no part of any of my businesses, no part of my sports, my Shylock, my legitimate businesses.
And the marijuana.
The marijuana, the Joker Pokers, the vendings, anything that I had going on, New York didn't have not one piece with me. The only thing they got was a continuation of what Bruno built with the extortions, and he got 6,000. So going forward, I'm at the stag party. Guy was getting married. Bruno comes up to me and he says that, what's going on? He was asking me some sports questions, and my mind, just so everybody will know, my mind wasn't in anything to do with sports, making money. My mind was to kill somebody. Mm-hmm. That's what my mind was. So, and Bruno asked me that down at the YMCA. We used to all go down there, take a steam. We had our own locker room. It was really nice. And there was politicians, and there was, judges and DAs and businessmen, and so I was down there, and Bruno asked me. He said, "What's going on with sports?" I told him, I said, "Bruno, I don't give a fuck about what's going on with the sports." And he goes, "What's going on?" And I go, I'm looking to kill. There was a incident that happened where 3 people got shot. We shot people, stabbed people, beat people, and then 2 days later, my house ended up getting shot at. So I was going to murder those people. I mean, I was actively searching to murder them. I go, that's all I care about. And he goes, well, who are you looking to kill? I go, it's not. I don't have to say who I'm looking to kill. He asked me like, who? And I want to tell him. So my mindset was murder, and it wasn't murdering him. I could that was the least of my thing. And either way, what does that mean? If you tell me, yeah, I was looking to murder Bruno, yeah, I was looking to murder Bruno. I pled guilty to it. Yeah, I did it. But I'm just giving you the facts of what happened in the case. You know, I pled guilty to murdering Bruno, but I'm giving you the facts of what was in my heart. And going forward, I'm going to tell you what was in my mind and what I wanted to do, and that wasn't part of it.
Let me ask you this. If you're given an order,
Yeah.
do this,
Yeah.
and you don't do it,
What
and
happened?
I got to give that order to somebody else, then the consequences?
Frank, you are a very sharp man. Yes, you're a dead man. So
Right?
it happened back. That actually happened with the way I got made. Was there was 2 guys that were. The hit that got me made was the Union guy in New York that that we shot him 9 times. There were supposed to be 2 guys around here, Joey Bazil and Reno Sravalo, that were supposed to do that hit with me, and they didn't do it. Reno was okay because of everything. He was around Felix at the time and everything that was going on. But Joey, he was told that they were looking to make them before me. Joey Bazil and Reno Sravalo were looking to get made in the mob. Those names were presented by the older bosses before me. So what happened was, as Bruno took boss, and did Bruno trust me? Well, I was partners with Bruno in the sports with the Shy. He trusted me enough to tell me to dig a hole and we were going to kill people. He sent me to clock other guys to murder, which I pled guilty to murder conspiracies, but the guys are alive. But he had me clocking guys. He brought me with him to New York when he asked permission to kill members of organized crime like Frankie Pugliano. And when you get the order, those guys were supposed to be with me to do that. And yes, I mean, if this was in 03, I know the one guy, Joey, was in trouble, because from what Artie told me, he wasn't going to let that go but also, you're right, when you get told to kill somebody and you don't do it by the boss, you're pretty much dead. And anybody in organized crime will tell you that.
You sign your own death.
Yeah.
You're not going to say it, because the guy gets killed afterwards. You got knowledge of it. They're not going to let that go. But today it's not nothing like that today.
Yeah.
But when Bruno came out and asked me directly at the stag party, he was asking me questions, and he kind of like threatened me as far as being, do you want me to put you on the shelf again? Because when I got put on the shelf in 96 and 98, they raided my house. They caught me with almost 40 pounds of marijuana and ammunition. And I was put on the shelf, which was laughable. I mean, I was meeting more gangsters and doing more things and making more money during that thing. And everybody that was somebody was still with me going forward. So he goes, you defy me. We were going into places, violently hurting people. When this is towards the end of Bruno, he says, the guys from New York come up. He says, you're with them. And, you could see he was sensing something. He was telling me, you think they're here to see you, or me? And he was kind of like, you could tell he was sensing things, But then when I hit him with, I was just down there with, Mario and Pat DeLuca and Artie. And he said, do you want me to put you back on the shelf again?
And at that
this
point,
and that. And he said, and I said, Bruno, you got to do what you got to do. Meanwhile, I'm already.
But I was going to say, you made it, right? Yeah, right.
That's
Yeah,
right. So he couldn't say, put you on the shelf.
So what happened? I said, Bruno, you got to do what you have to do. I said, but
You were playing along with it.
Exactly. And I said, you have to do what you have to do. But I will tell you this. I know you've been trying to reach out to New York, and I have a message for you. And he said, who's the message from? And I told him, Mario, Pat, and Artie. And I've never seen, and I said, they're going to be reaching out for you soon. just I think it's going to be next week, they said, but they're going to reach out for you to have you come down next week. That was when it was going to take place, with him getting taken down, and they were going to tell him officially, we're taking you down. And so they were just waiting for the right.
Right.
But he was trying hard to get to them, to find out what was happening. When I told him that, Bruno was always a, smooth criminal. He was sharp. He had finesse, and you never saw him. He was calculated. In his the way he thought and did things. But when I told him that, his face turned white, and I never seen him flustered, and I never seen him kind of like lose control of his. He goes, who told you that? I said, I just told you who told me that. Well, why were you there? And I said, well, I was down there. They called me to come down. But why would they call you and not tell me? Now, don't forget, he thinks he is the boss, and I'm getting called down there, and I'm giving him a message. And then he kept asking me. He goes, well, why did they call you? Well, what did they say? What did they? Well, at the end of it all, I never seen him flustered like this. But he kind of like, he goes, you're already there. He goes, you got this, and he went like this, and he goes, you got that, and I go. He goes, you got your button. And I said, Bruno, I don't have anything. I go, I'm just giving you the message that they gave me. He goes, no. He goes, you got it. And then at that point on, he was, he was kind of like treating me differently.
Were you told not to tell him?
I was told not. They didn't want the heat on me, so they don't want to introduce me.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's why they wanted to pump this other guy as a puppet,
right. Okay.
just so he would, like you said, the lightning
rod.
And they didn't want that to be known. But afterwards, from what I'm learning, is that Bruno kind of figured things out by the call Larry made. Treat that guy like you would treat me. He found out that, and he had mentioned to his to a close friend that when you treat Anthony, treat him like he's a lot more important than you think, and so you would treat him very that you would treat me. So I knew he kind of figured it out, and that's when but up until that point, there was no murder plot on him. There was no murder conspiracy. So with that being said, what time is it, Frank?
Oh, 10 after.
10 after 4. I think, like, with that being said, is I can wrap it up here going forward. So I broke it down what we're going to be discussing in the next 4 or 5 episodes. I'm going to do part 1, part 2, part 3. It might take 3 episodes, it might take 4, but I'm going to break it down. What was going on in the late 90s when Bruno got the position of boss, and what led up to him eventually. Why did it lead up to him wanting to be taken down? Why? He was a boss. It was the best thing that ever happened to him. What led up to Bruno getting stripped of his rank? Who were the guys behind it?
Fascinating.
Leading up to that. And like I said, right outside this door, 20 feet, I'm going to show the audience the door that Bruno actually came out that last night. He came out with Frankie DiBergola, which I already explained, a low-level associate, but a big earner. He was a good earner, Frankie, non-violent. And the door he came out, the assassin was waiting for him, Frankie, who we were going to kill. Frankie, 100%. We were going to kill the kid Frankie Rhodes, but we weren't going to kill him until after the job. There was never once a discussion about killing Frankie Rhodes, ever. That never ever came out. There was a beef going on in the city with him. I'm going to explain what that beef was. Why Bruno was looking for him. The last words, and I'm going to tell you outside what the last words were spoken for because of that beef. And this is in no way to disrespect, like the families involved or my area coming down here with this story. You got content creators, you got individuals that are talking about it, and they're talking nonsense, and they're talking about the Bruno murder and giving their opinions and spin on it. And so whoever doesn't like what I'm doing, then people are doing this and they're putting spins on things that are totally false. I watched a show a content creator put out there, and it was like 40 minutes. I counted up to 25 lies or inaccuracies throughout the whole thing, you know? So if that's the case going forward, I feel it's my duty to come out with and explain
The truth.
the truth but while not offending anyone that was involved. I mean, I pled guilty to it. I got an 8.5-year sentence. You got other people talking about things that happened, and they weren't in part of it. I was part of it, and I like the people.
The liars are gonna get offended.
Well, the
Because
liars,
they're liars.
and the hate, and you know, you have liars, and you have like trolls, and you have everyone has haters that have the, you know, that are trying to you know, exaggerate their existence in our circles. And I'm gonna go detail by detail, one by one, my crew. I'm gonna talk about Ralphie Santinello. I'm gonna talk about Albert. I'm gonna talk about this guy Gerald. I'm gonna talk about Johnny. I'm gonna talk about each guy. I'm gonna tell you the Manzies. I'm gonna tell everybody everything in my crew. And I'm gonna break down who was who, whether it's good or bad, the truth. And going forward, that's what I'm going to break down with their inconsistencies. Even when I'm home now, with the inconsistencies and the lies that comes through. When I came home in 2017, the lies that I heard from my area, this guy said that he did this with me, and he was this, and he was that, and he was this, and I'm being told, I go, well, you know, that didn't happen, you know.
You should
want
go
me
to Walt Disney.
lie,
Right?
but why don't we do this? We'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Why don't you just grab the camera?
Yeah.
And we'll just show the outside of where
Let me
Bruno.
see what's outside first.
Sure.
before we
Yeah,
go
yeah,
out
yeah,
there.
exactly.
And make
And
sure
Great
we
job.
got-
this
You
is
did a
what I'm
great job.
going to explain the last. If it's possible, if there's people there's a lot of people. Hey, if there's people there, we don't have to do it. We can do it another one. We'll just be 2 minutes. We don't want to rush people away. What do you think, Frank?
What do you think?
Should we do it? Or
Okay, yeah, give me a couple of minutes. I'm just.
All right.
and we could do another video and
No,
do it at
no,
another
why?
time.
No, I'm clearing the way. Don't worry.
Okay, all right.
Salute, guys.
Hey, salute.
Salute.
Beautiful
Yeah.
section.
And going
I love
forward, also, you know, like I said, this is going to be broken down with New Haven. So, Jimmy, you've been doing a lot of research with the New Haven, Connecticut, a lot of notorious mobsters that way.
Oh my God.
And you got a few names that you want to just
Well,
throw out there, not to talk about them.
No,
now,
no, not the future of your show, and when you're ready, Anthony, to talk about, they were notorious bank robbers out of New Haven that robbed more banks than Jesse James. We're gonna get into them. We're gonna get and talk about the gambling parlors that they had probably before Atlantic City to after.
Any names you can tell us, though, Jim?
Yeah, we could talk about the Eddie Devlin crew, the bank robbers.
How about notorious Italian mobsters? Like,
Italian mobsters was actually, we spoke about him. William Grasso. There was an associate.
Piccolo.
There was Frank Piccolo. There was an associate that this guy was out of New Haven. These are New Haven guys.
Tony Volpe,
Tony
Frank
Volpe
Zametti,
from Hartford.
There was the Rooster.
The
that
Rooster,
took over
right.
with all these.
Right.
Um,
And they go on
Whitey
in a,
Tropiano.
Whitey, big notorious killers, as we spoke about them before. But there was such a story that I found out about the notorious gambling parlor in New Haven that they had. Went on for 15 years. That
Well,
it was split. Right.
Yeah, we'll touch on all that when we're doing the Connecticut
Right.
shows. But we got a lot of stuff coming up with
A lot of stuff.
you know, with content with Connecticut, and a lot of it's going to be done with mixed stories and a lot of research to let the a lot of people, because nobody's touched on that. But Frank, why don't you grab
Yeah,
the camera?
yeah,
We'll show them
yeah.
real quick where Bruno come out.
Yep.
Again, we're at the Our Lady of Mount Carmel Social Club. This is where the assassination of Al Bruno took place.
And I'll open the door.
This is so we'll start back over here, Frank. But this is where the individual that shot Bruno. He was lurking in these shadows late at night. Back over here. He was waiting for Bruno to surface, which Bruno did surfacing, as we know. Great. Bruno's car was parked right right here. Bruno's car was parked right here, and he walked out with, like I said, Frankie.
This store here?
Yeah. He was. This is where Bruno's truck was, and this is where he was shot. The assassin was lurking in those shadows down there. As the assassin walked up to him, he said, "Hey, Al," and Al responded, "Yeah, buddy." And he said, "I heard you're looking for me." And those were the last words that Al Bruno said in his life. And, you know, it's a tragic thing. And people asked me if I was, you know, in my heart, was I happy with that happen? Absolutely not. I was, it was something that I didn't want to see happen. I wanted to see other people murdered. And it wasn't my intentions to go that route with Bruno. And this is the door that he came out. Right here. This is the actual door that Bruno came out that night with Frankie. And he would have walked. And he would have walked this path, Frank, this way. To his car right there. So, folks, coming soon, I'm going to get into detail by detail the events that took place that night and walking through it step by step. Only because of the fact with the content that's out there is not, a lot of it is not true. It's fabricated. It's people trying to make a name of themselves and putting their own opinions in. So at the end of this, 4 or 5 episodes, however long it takes, I hope the truth will you know, come out, be serviced, and once and for all, get the story out the right way. So coming soon, Jimmy, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much,
Frank,
Anthony.
Thanks for coming
And
up.
Frank,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, say goodbye, Frank.
Ciao.
Bye, Anthony.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, fellas.